Welcome to Fear Coded, a podcast where we talk about media from the horror genre and take a queer reading of a single book, video game, film, podcast, or TV show to explore just how queer horror can be. And in this episode, we're talking about the 2020 TV show by Mike Flanagan, The Haunting of Bly Manor, with a focus in our conversation this time being the season finale, The Beast in the Jungle. I'm David.
I'm Marilee.
And I'm Tyler.
And while we're being circled by a beast in the jungle of our own lives, I want to check in and say hello to my co-hosts and see how things are going for them in the landscape of horrors that our real world has to offer. What's making y'all scared or what's making you feel prepared? I feel like I always go last. I'm always scared, so I'm going to kick us off this time, but I'm still scared. I'm scared because we're going over to a friend's house, which I'm actually very excited and prepared for, but we're making chili crisps. So this is like a cooking demo, really fun, except that it's to make something spicy. So I am terrified because I don't do spicy foods.
Oh, listen, you're so valid. The thing is, I like spicy food a little bit. I like the way that it makes my mouth tingle. If it reaches a certain point where I cannot eat the food, what is the point in making it that spicy?
Seriously, Mike made this chili once and I took a bite of it and instantly went to run away and hide. He ate a whole bowl and was like, it's not that spicy. And then water started pouring out of the top of his head because it was in fact that spicy.
Yeah.
Wow.
The body doesn't lie. So I'm a little scared of the chili crisp. The host promised that we would make ketchup for me, which made me feel seen. So that's really exciting.
Well, David, do you have Irish people or English people that are going to be at this thing, in which case your level of spice might be a lot lower?
Girl, here's the deal. They're all English. They're from Britain, but they have high spice profiles. And so they're not jiving with their own stereotype. How dare they?
Well, that is why they're expats, right?
I know. Not that... Listen, Spain gets a reputation for having spices, but they found saffron and they said, that's it. We got it. We don't need to workshop this anymore. It is not a spice fluent country.
To be fair, love saffron. Delicious.
It's a pretty good spice. It's the most expensive spice in the world for a reason.
I didn't know that.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
So saffron is from these, sorry, my sister loves plants, so I know a lot of things about it by association. They're from a crocus flower, the threads. So each flower can only make, so many threads from, every year, and they're perennial. So, you can only get them a certain period of time. They're very expensive to get saffron threads.
I had
no idea. Can I tell you that the idea of a crocus flower only exists to me as a pick-upable in Stardew Valley. I've never given thought to it being a real plant in the world.
No,
Barely.
They're real. And they're very
Truly.
pretty too. You can buy saffron crocus and grow your own. It takes 2 years though.
Oh, no, I don't have time for that. I've got to move, and so I am scared this week, but I'm going to pass it on to Marilee and see, are you feeling scared or prepared about anything?
Listen, I am feeling a little scared about stuff. Yeah, so I live in Texas. A couple of years ago, you might know, we had this big freeze that came by, and, it was very damaging to our power grid. We lost power in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this or not, but there have not been any meaningful repairs to our power grid.
Wow.
Because why would you, have consequences for people or power and try and fix things? And so every year it's been more and more damaged by the constant use without repair. And this week, we're still in June. It's not that hot yet. It's only in the 90s. But on Thursday night, we lost power for a couple minutes. And
No.
Yeah, and so I don't know if something else went wrong or if it was just our block. Not our block. It was a couple blocks in our neighborhood. It was for just a couple minutes, but it happened twice. Once for 30 seconds, one for a minute and a half. And I am really scared of what our grid is going to look like, because we had the last year, there were brownouts and people we got notices from the city. It's hey, please lower how much you're using your air conditioner so that we have grid capacity. And so just this little taste, little soupçon of what's coming in for the rest of the summer has me very nervous.
Yeah, for real. Also, don't tell people to mess with their AC. Why don't we stop making so many, I don't know, pieces of plastic or whatever?
That would be great. I would love
Yeah.
that. I would love some grid repair. I would love businesses not getting a priority so that they can blast their AC as much as they like, but our people in our own homes have to suffer.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Love any of those things to happen. They won't, though.
So
That is terrifying, Marilee, because not only are you scared about the heat, you are scared about bureaucracy.
I know, and like, let me tell you what, my power bill is so goddamn expensive. For what? For what? I can't even AC my shit.
Marilee, if I'm being honest, I'm still hung up on you saying it's June. It's not that hot. It's only in the 90s.
Yeah.
I have to, like, listen, I say that. I start dying at 85. So
100%. Yeah.
I just know it's going to get hotter. It's going to get worse. You will hear me actively die a little bit in real time every podcast between now and when we record in, I don't know, September.
November, maybe. Maybe it'll be cool. Maybe it'll be cool by Christmas. That's all we can really hope for.
God, I just want anything, any kind of break in the heat. How about you, Tyler?
Well, weather related, I'm also feeling pretty scared.
Oh no.
Oh
So-
no, triple whammy.
Triple whammy of fear. So in the last couple days, it's been like really, really rainy, and it's some may say, well, it's Florida in the summertime. Of course, it's going to be rainy. And to them, I say, you fools, you haven't been paying attention to the weather because we had a almost tropical storm coming through, and it basically drowned my hometown, which already was like not doing so hot because it was hit by Hurricane Ian a couple years ago. And so like where I am, it wasn't too bad. Like it rained pretty gnarly for like a day and that was it. My hometown like flooded, which is dreadful.
I've seen pictures. It looks really bad.
And now I'm just like, it's only June. It is June, mama. Like, now I have to deal with, like, potential more hurricanes coming through. I'm not ready.
I should know this. What's the season on that sort of thing? When does that end?
So, hurricane season starts June 1st and then ends after Thanksgiving.
Ew. No.
Yeah, it's a very long period of time. And it's only really bad around, like, September, October, because the water has warmed up so much. It's now, like, really conducive to creating hurricanes, which is why all the worst hurricanes tend to be, like, in September, October.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Sad that fear also then compounds with the idea that there's so much more time between June and November.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Okay. Well, maybe we move you to a landlocked state.
Girl, we're trying for Ohio. Like hold on, Florida education.
No, it touches a Great Lake.
Big lake to the north, right?
Touches a Great Lake. Yeah.
Okay.
Erie.
All right. So it's not landlocked, but it is pretty like it's the Midwest. Oh fuck! But there's tornadoes.
Well, yeah, but that's just
tornadoes
wind.
are so scary. They're the natural disaster that scares me the most. Did
Really?
you know? And this is true. A tornado can completely destroy one house, but leave either house, like on either side, completely fine. Horrifying. What the fuck?
I did know that. Yes.
Yeah.
I know that wind is this terrible, scary thing when it is intense, but it's delightful when it's moderate.
There's a documentary coming out later this summer about what happens when two tornadoes show up at the same time. It's called Twisters.
No. Cancel the podcast. I saw this coming, but I couldn't get my car off the tracks, and so the joke plowed right into me. Truly and honestly.
That's what I'm here for.
No, I 100% was like, yeah, okay, tell me about this documentary that I'm going to watch. Nope.
No.
It's a sequel documentary. A weird thing to have happen. But
I know.
Every once in a while.
Hey, sometimes,
Tyler, you just hold your little mind. We'll talk Twister when we eventually cover The Shining on this podcast, and then I'll let you talk about Twister again, as of course a tornado hits them while they're in a drive-in watching The Shining.
Oh, in the original Twister. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the connections now.
Yeah,
I was originally just like, is there a tornado in Stanley Kubrick's The Shining?
There is no tornado in that one.
I've watched the original Twister a lot. I don't know what to tell you. I'm a Helen Hunt girl. I love her, so I just can't get
who
enough.
isn't?
Who among us?
Everybody loves Helen Hunt.
Yeah.
Let me tell you who else I love. Everyone in this show. We covered a Flanagan show when Gimmicks talked about an episode of Haunting of Hill House,
which was really great, by the way. You should listen to it. I really recommend that episode. I recommend all Gimmicks episodes, to be clear, but there's also some with me on it if you want to check those out.
Not one on Haunting of the Hill House, unfortunately, but we talked a little bit about it as a trio in our intro episode because we were talking a little bit about our experiences with things. But today we're talking not about the Haunting of Hill House, but the Haunting of Bly Manor, a 2020 ghost-filled love story created by Mike Flanagan and based loosely on the works of Henry James. The show is centered on an American au pair taking care of two children in a remote manor house in the English countryside where things are not quite what they appear. And, like a lot of Flanagan joints, it does not follow a linear narrative.
The show was released on October 9th, 2020 on Netflix. It was the second of 5 limited series by Mike Flanagan for the platform, and it was created specifically to be a follow-up to the enormous smash hit that was The Haunting of Hill House, a wonderful show with a lot of creepy ghosts. And I love it, but I don't think I can ever rewatch it. The show was widely praised by both critics and audiences alike, though most consider it not quite as scary as Hill House.
The Beast in the Jungle was the 9th and final episode of the show. It was written by E.L. Katz and directed by Julia Biconell. This episode in particular sparked some controversy online about the unfortunately common media trope, bury your gays, and whether or not this counted as another example of that trend. But before we get into all that, what's everybody's background and experience with this show?
This was a live watch for us. I don't remember if we watched it all the weekend of October 9th, but we might have. I remember plowing pretty heavily through Bly Manor. In fact, when I rewatched this, I thought, ooh, I've forgotten a lot about this story because I have not touched it again since October 9th, 2020 or thereabouts. But yeah, we devoured this one. So I was really happy when this came up on our brainstorm list.
Yeah, me too. I've loved Mike Flanagan's work since Hush, but after what he did with Hill House, which has been a longtime favorite of mine in pretty much every adaptation, I always watch it. I'm always a huge fan. I was converted to a Flan-a-fan for life. So I binged the whole thing on the first day.
Nice.
Can we stop real quick and just like Flan-a-fan?
Flan-a-fan? I don't know. I don't know if there's an official term or anything.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
There is now.
Yeah.
There is now, Marilyn.
I was just like, Marilee, did you go into like the Mike Flanagan TikTok verse and like pull that one out? Because it's wonderful. It's horrible, but it's wonderful.
No, it's perfect.
I am willing to do that research for you. Don't you worry.
Owen would approve of Flan-a-fan. I'm just here to tell you. And I think that if your character is played by Rahul Kohli, then everything you do is right in the world.
I think every character should be played by Rahul Kohli, if I'm being
I
honest.
agree.
As a flatline.
Yeah.
Just like that episode of Good Place where everyone was Darcy Corden playing Janet. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great.
So for me, when it comes to Bly Manor, so we watched it, my partner and I watched it over the course of a couple days around Halloween. I had previously read Henry James's The Turn of the Screw for grad school. So I was really excited to see kind of like Flanagan do a loose adaptation, which he's kind of the king at.
Yeah.
And while like there's obviously some differences, like the core of the story's themes are there, which again, that's kind of like Flanagan's MO when it comes to these adaptations. Like he'll change a lot of stuff, but he's still got the heart of the thing in there. Which I think is great because it's like a people pleaser, but it's also going to please like the fans and the book fans and so on and so forth. So he's a great guy. Also hilarious on TikTok. I love all his stuff.
Oh my God.
As far as The Turn of the Screw goes, though, I had previously experienced it through, I think it was like a Scooby-Doo like made for TV movie when I was a kid.
What?
Or maybe it was an No, I remember what it was. Oh my God. Okay. There was a Johnny Quest cartoon back in the 90s, and they did an episode that was set in, like, I think it was, they transplanted the scene so it was like the Louisiana Bayou, and it was two people who were being possessed by ghosts, and they were lovers, and it was like they were trying to like permanently take over these bodies, and it was like a whole thing. And yeah, that was my first time experiencing anything the Turn of the Screw related.
Wow. That is incredible.
I had no idea.
I've confirmed this now, not that I doubted your memory, but the Real Adventures of Johnny Quest episode More Than Zero is many people's experience with this sort of homage to Turning of the Screw.
David, I'm so happy that you were able to either go into your encyclopedic knowledge of all things television or Googled it.
I'm just really good on DuckDuckGo. That's what I got going for me.
DuckDuckGo, way better than Google right now. There's less AI.
Right now. Well, and not going to lie to you, I had to get on the VPN to watch this episode on Netflix because we have an American Netflix account, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Anytime I go on to the VPN and I'm American again, I get all this AI garbage on everything. As soon as I'm back in Europe, they're like, oh no, we can't fuck with you all because the EU has protections about this. And that's just another tick in the column of why you all should live here.
God, having some sort of government entity protect you from AI garbage, I can't even imagine what that's like. Must be so nice.
I saw people talking about Grok on Twitter, and I was like, I have never seen that because it just doesn't show up for me because they are scared of the EU.
Yeah, David, are you looking for roommates? Because, you know,
I got this chair. It turns into a bed.
Yeah, I'm definitely built for one of those, David.
Oh my gosh. I will also say that I'm going to try really hard because I already fucked up, but it's Turn of the Screw. Every time I see it, my mind, because I can only hold so much thing in my stupid brain, I replace it with Taming of the Shrew, which I know is not done by Henry James. It is a Shakespeare thing, and it is about 10 Things I Hate About You, not about Haunting of Bly Manor.
Do you mean
I'm going to struggle.
10 Things I Hate About You is about the Taming of the Shrew, which you get mixed up with Turn of the Screw.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I am struggle this whole episode.
We're going to extricate ourselves from that real quick and focus a little bit more on the episode itself and really the show as a whole when it comes to themes. So the Haunting of Bly Manor, it covers a lot of different ground. So we'll talk a little bit about some of those themes. One of those main themes within the show is obviously like ghost or supernatural horror. Ghosts in horror tend to represent a lot of different things, from like you could have something very literal, which is a potentially homicidal deceased person, or the wish that someone was still there, which creates this phantom. Famously, The Turn of the Screw, the novella most of the series is based on, as we've pointed out, helped pioneer this psychological ghost story subgenre where the existence of ghosts within the story is up for debate due to an unreliable narrator. Unreliable narrators, of course, are, and ghosts and all sorts of spooky things, all come from Gothic literature. Typically, or I should say really specifically, in this case, we're talking about Gothic romance. This type of story is going to involve ancient manors or old houses, secrets either in the family or among other people, and then ghosts, which combine within the context of two people in love in an atmosphere of suspense, the supernatural, and high emotion.
Right, so this is like Jane Eyre, right? Like Jane Eyre is
100%.
What I think about is like the prototypical Gothic romance.
Exactly, yeah. Jane Eyre is a wonderful example of that. I'm so sorry to my high school English teacher who I told that I read all of Jane Eyre, but I only read really, like the beginning. I'm sure, mistaken, you are listening to this, and to you I say, my bad.
You know what? There's a musical of Jane Eyre, and you can just listen to the original Broadway cast recording, and you get all the high points. You're fine.
I watched the movie directed by Cary Fukunaga, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful movie. I got all the same thing, and I didn't have to read a giant tome to get it.
Yeah.
Can I listen? I know that Jane Eyre is not what we're here to talk about today, but can I tell you this funny story about when I read Jane Eyre in high school?
Yes,
please.
Of course.
So I also didn't really read the book. I read parts of it, but like I skimmed like a Wikipedia page or like a, I don't know, the whatever for idiots kind of book it was. Cliff Notes, that's the one. And so I missed school one day, but I had done all of this research. I was fine. So I come to class and everybody is talking about this person named Sinjin, and I had no idea what they were talking about. I was like, oh my god, did my Cliff Notes, like, was it missing something? Who is Sinjin? And then I realized that they're talking about what I thought was St. James. I thought his name was St. James. It's Sinjin. Why do British people do that? I'm so confused. I've never gotten an answer.
That's incredible, Marilee. That is incredible. It's the only thing. It's one of those names that you would read in a book, and you would only get it in like a book club or something, or a class.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's
no, and like, I truly thought that I had fucked up because like the test was in 2 days, and I was like, "What the fuck do you mean, Sinjin? Who is it? Do I have to read a whole book in 2 days? What's going on?"
You do not. You do not.
Imagine if British people were real. That's all I'm saying.
I don't have to. I'm making chili crisp with them tonight. I will say, though, of course, to talk about the gothic romance of it all, like the Haunting of Bly Manor is a real subversion of the expectations of that. Because if you look at Jane Eyre, like, oh, I've fallen in love with you, you rich and strange owner of this manor whose ex-wife might be hanging out in the attic. I think that's how the story went. I don't totally remember Jane Eyre.
You got it.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh no, a fire. Anyway, in this one, our protagonist sort of has her own capacity. She does come in as sort of doe-eyed, but she is in control of her actions. She doesn't get saved by a man. She does some saving of a beautiful woman. I don't know. I just really liked us talking about gothic romance, but I also want to like acknowledge that The Haunting of Bly Manor is a subversion of that expectation.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. There is also a wonderful term that Marilee invented. Marilee, do you want to talk us a little bit more about this new theme that you've established?
Yeah, and I don't want to pronounce it because I've only read it in the show notes.
Same.
Per our conversation of Jane Eyre.
I'm not falling into a Sinjin trap.
Well, I'm happy to fall on this knife for you. The thing is a huge theme of the whole show for me, and I couldn't find some horror theme that explained it properly, and it was just I felt completely criminal to talk about themes in Bly Manor without mentioning this. So I came up with palimpsest horror, which palimpsest is a manuscript or piece of writing material on which like the original writing has been removed and then written over, but you can still see traces of like the original writing. This was like from a time when paper or vellum or whatever people were writing on was really valuable. So instead of getting a new one, they would just erase stuff and keep going. So a huge part of the narrative of the horror in this show is about ways in which time makes us lose ourselves in our memories. From Owen's mother's struggle with dementia to the ghost's frequent slips into old memories, and the way that forgetting who they are erases the very features on their faces.
Yeah, I love this term, Marilee. I am terrified by it. That is probably the scariest part of Bly Manor to me, is this horror of losing memory, losing sense of self. I thought that was particularly impactful, and I think it's also told very well through some chilling opening credits.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah. I love this notion, and I think it's so unique to Bly Manor. But I like something about it, like. I guess maybe we should also talk about this too at some point, but like I'm not really a person who believes in ghosts, but I love the way that Flanagan depicts ghosts here. And if ghosts were to exist, I feel like this makes the most sense to me how they would behave, because ghosts are in these kinds of stories are memories of places or people. And I think that's something that's like a log line that you find in a lot of gothic horror, is that ghosts are meant to represent something, usually a previous event or a memory or what have you. And I think this is really like a beautiful way to do that, along with incorporating a lot of the sort of like fear of disease or long-term illness, and how this also really plays into queer theory and how we can queer the typical gothic ghost story. And I think this is a wonderful way of doing that, and opens up a lot of doors.
I love that. The thing is, to me, I love the contrast between ghosts, like this huge fantastical element, to the thing that we all think is the scariest, this palimpsest aspect, when that's just a real thing that really happens to people. Like, dementia is a horrifying thing that can happen, and we're all saying that it's the scariest part of this ghost show with, like, people with no faces.
Yeah. Well, yes, because I also think that it's then confronting the idea that the most horrible thing that's going to come and get me, and in this instance, am Danny, the worst thing that's going to come for me is this creature with no face, which is also what I am scared of becoming. And that works on two different levels. One, I'm being literally choked / drowned by her fist. And two, like, I have to look at the thing that I fear the most.
And you can't hit dementia with a baseball bat. You
cannot. You could hit the lady with no face, and I really wanted somebody to take a swing, but nobody ever did, which is fine. Whatever. Well, we already started talking about the queerness of this, but let's just right on the top. Is this queer? Yeah, because it's about two ladies in love. So obviously we're going to talk like the directly on the page queer love between Danny and Jamie. No interpretation needed. You don't have to get out your notebooks and be like, Marilee and David and Tyler are really, really stretching to do this one. It's like, this is about queer love. But I think there's a lot of other things for us to consider as we sort of peel this apart.
Yeah, and I really love this idea too, that like that's really kind of a nice thing about queer theory and what a lot of our show hinges on is the idea of like, let's go beyond saying like two same-sex people are in love, and then we call it queer and then wrap it up. That's it for the day. Instead, we look at the different relationships, and I think this episode is, you know, by its nature being a finale, provides such a good wrap on what we can consider a queering of the typical ideology of heterosexuality. You know, we see that the main heterosexual relationship that has existed in the show, which we'll touch on, that is the thing that is flawed and considered, I guess, quote unquote, wrong, which it is. They're trying to possess children. But then there's
listen, I will not have you come on here and lambast my girl, Winifred Sanderson, who just wants to look young and beautiful. Children are fine if you eat them. But there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm going to keep that one in mind. We'll add that to like the recipe book. You know, we'll eventually do like a fear-coded recipe book if the show is successful enough.
And BTW, we'll get to it, but only one of the ghosts ended up possessing the children. It was all okay because the girl ghost was happy. I forgot that entire storyline, so I was so glad Marilee put like a last time on the notes because I was like, I have no idea what's happened to this story.
Oh my god.
Can I, though? There's another opposite sex relationship that I think is actually a very queer relationship.
Yes.
And it's between Owen and Hannah, especially because it is a relationship that cannot happen because Hannah is dead. And she's a ghost. You can't have a relationship with a ghost. So like there's a queer listen, if it was Dennis from Angel, I would totally do it. Draw me a bath, make my bed, hello. But this like not able to be kind of resonates, I think, with a queer reading because there are a lot of queer relationships that have everything that they need, but they just can't be because of the very nature of them existing. And I thought that was a powerful way of reading this as well.
Yeah, I really love that.
Yeah, I also love that. I think there's so much to mine in this show that goes beyond just Danny and oh god, what's her name?
Jamie.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting that Danny, Jamie, not particularly gendered names. So I could also see a world in which this was written with a different mindset. And then.
Well, it was.
Oh,
so,
great.
yeah. So Danny and Jamie is like the romance that happens in the original Turn of the Screw book. And Jamie in that book, the gardener, is a man. So it was an adaptational choice to make Jamie and their whole relationship queer.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea of perhaps gender blind casting. I hope that didn't happen. I hope this was a very intentional lesbian story.
It was.
Okay, great. But I do like the idea of gender blind casting. Like, I just think that there are some stories that are just beyond the nature of gender. And so it would be kind of fun if they were cast without that in mind.
That would be fun.
I know we've got a lot else to talk about, but we have to talk about this bury your gaze situation. So first of all, what is the trope bury your gaze?
So do you not have any familiarity with this, David? Or
I mean, I've heard it like thrown around, but I don't know that I could put a definition on it if you asked me to.
Right. So a lot of times what happens in media is that somebody will have like, look, here's this character that's queer, and then they will die, or they will have a relationship that's about to be consummated, and then one of the two lovers will die. So you will have like the idea of a queer relationship in your text, but no actual queer activity takes place. And moreover, a lot of the I'm sure there's an actual definition that we should probably look up.
So the bury your gaze trope has to do with a piece of media. There's a long history of it happening in books, but also in movies, videos, like TV shows, whatever. With this idea that two same-sex people cannot happily be in a relationship together. One of them has to die. Usually it's in a tragic way because the dominant society or corporate shareholders or whatever have said that same-sex people cannot happily be in a relationship together because inherently there's something wrong with that happening. It's also has to do with a lot of like trying to mine for tragedy. It's really easy to create conflict if a partner dies, and it creates drama. And in recent years, this has been seen as a lot more lazy and homophobic. And there was a very quick and sudden backlash to the show when we all found out that Danny passes away at the end, because here it seemed to be a happy queer relationship between two lesbians, which lesbians also are pretty notorious for getting the shaft. With getting killed, and I myself actually did have that initial impulse of like, wow, Flanagan, you can't just let two gay people be in love and be happy. But seriously? I think in recent years that opinion may have cooled.
Well, you know, that's what I was stricken by, because I obviously am familiar with its presence in like HIV and AIDS related media, and I know that like deaths in Philadelphia obviously is an example of this trope. I guess I surround myself with a lot of media where all the queer people make it out alive, so, or at least I make them queer after they live at the end of the story. But it's funny because when I remember some of the discourse when this came out being about the bury your gaze trope, but it felt like an earned sacrifice of Danny. And not like shoddy writing, I guess, in my mind. It didn't feel like she was being fridged, which is, I sort of put bury your gaze alongside killing the woman in the first act of a video game, so that you've got the main character, who is the male insert, have some reason to be motivated.
To me, this is an example of bury your gaze, because we get that full love story. Like, this horror show stops being mostly a horror show for like 20 minutes because we get to see these lesbians live this beautiful life together, and it's not done for shock value. The main characters are the queer characters. It's not like Danny does this thing and then we follow Flora for like 20 years and then we see like Jamie at the wedding telling this story. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel like they did live a long and happy life together. We'll talk about that. I know we're going to keep visiting this because this isn't the only queer people who are going to die, because obviously the things we do. But I do hope that we talk about it critically every time, because eventually you all are going to make me watch Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And like, isn't everyone in the cast queer? Like, and so anyone who dies is a buried gay. Like, it's all gay all the time.
I'm going to be honest. I haven't seen Bodies, Bodies, Bodies yet.
I haven't either.
Well, then I'm going to force you all to watch it because everyone's gay.
I can't wait. It's just one of those things, like, I don't always have time to watch new movies, and also
That's fair.
I'm so tired, David.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
It's a very good but dark movie. Very dark.
Yeah,
like, not
and you know,
topically.
sometimes I just want to watch the same show that I've seen 15 times. So
I get it.
Yeah.
Well, David, Delicious in Dungeon just ended, so I need something to fill the void. I guess I'll just replace it with a really dark horror movie
And again,
full of queer people.
I need to be clear, not dark like topically. It is dark topically because people are being murdered, but like actually dark. Like they all light the scenes with their phone, like the flashlights on their phones.
Oh,
That's fun.
Yeah,
I like that. I love
anyway.
inventive lighting.
Yeah. Well, thanks for letting me go on a little tangent about Bury Your Gays. I rule on behalf of Flan-a-fans everywhere that this was not a Bury Your Gays trip.
You heard it here first,
listen,
folks.
thank God we have the arbitrator of everything.
Yeah.
David,
Listen.
I really appreciate you.
Here I am. I have power. I will use it.
Yeah. So The Haunting of Bly Manor isn't just an adaptation of the novella Turn of the Screw. It is also a loose adaptation of several of his other short stories, like The Romance of Certain Old Clothes. And not only that, while they don't feature any of the characters, many episodes are named after other short stories, like The Beast in the Jungle or The Altar of the Dead, and they explore themes present in those works. What is your experience with Henry James's work? Have you read anything of his before? I know we touched on this briefly, but
Yeah, so again, I read Turn of the Screw back in grad school. I have a lot of fond memories of that, mostly because I read it and listened to an audiobook narrated by Emma Thompson.
Ooh.
Oh, it was delightful. She was wonderful. So yeah, a lot of positive memories. I think that might be the trauma of grad school kind of talking as well. But as far as the story itself, I really liked how there were a lot of clever turns, and James does a good job of never placing you comfortably in the truth. The very framework of the story is that this is a story being told secondhand to you. Actually, I think it's even third hand, because it's the narrator is a person. It's like a Christmas party, and back in the Victorian era, there were a lot of ghost stories that were told at Christmas parties.
Bring that tradition back.
We should definitely bring that back. That'll be our fear-coded Christmas episode. We'll just tell ghost stories. But yeah, it's the point being that you're never in a comfortable place of knowing the truth, and that lingers all throughout the entirety of the novella. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So I read Turn of the Screw years ago for fun. The thing is, I love unreliable narrators. I think narratives where the narrator isn't, reliable is just fun. I think it's enrichment. And the thing is, that book was compared a lot to my beloved The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. So I just thought it would be a fun little read. And I was right. It was a fun little read.
I like that. I'm brand new to Henry James, so if I can remember the name of this little novella when I go to check out its availability at the library, then I will read it.
Just remember to ask for the Turn of the Shrew.
You're fucking me up on purpose. I wish somebody had written The Turn of the Shrew, where it is an unreliable narrator talking about the ghosts of Petruchio and whoever else. I don't remember all their names.
Well,
honestly, I love that. Can we do that? Can we?
Yeah.
Let's the three of us write it.
Yeah, great, of course. Yeah, this will be like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. The world loves when you take existing media and then force it to be horror with other media.
Exactly.
Let's do it.
Perfect. So, of course, our story that we tell will have to have ghosts, much like this one. So, Bly Manor, everybody. Bly Manor follows in Hill House's footsteps by having ghosts hidden through the backgrounds of otherwise innocuous scenes, like an incredibly spooky scavenger hunt. There might not be any in this particular episode, as most of it takes place after the gravity well keeping ghosts at Bly Manor has been lifted, but it does beg the question, were you looking for any ghosts in the background? And if you were, how many did you find?
No. I only found one. It was the creepy plague doctor who was hanging out. You could see him between the banister sets, and I was like, don't like that. I don't like ghosts who are hanging out. What are they up to? They're planning something. Can't hit them with a baseball bat.
Flanagan really had the audacity of just being like, okay, I'm making this show like in 2018, 2019. I'll put a plague doctor in here. I'm sure it's not going to cause any problems at the time that this episode is released. And lo and behold, aren't we just in the middle of a pandemic when this episode comes out?
Of course, because I'm watching it with today's eyes. I didn't really clock that this was like height of the pandemic, right? Like we were all locked at home. Maybe that's why we watched it over the weekend. I was like desperate for new entertainment while I was playing Animal Crossing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the ghosts in Hill House scared the shit out of me. If I like ever go back and do watch like the first couple episodes of Hill House, because that's kind of like all I can get through before my brain gets distracted and is just like, ooh, new show. I'm always getting freaked the fuck out by the ghosts in the background, especially the ones that are like part of a wall or something that just it's just something that should not be there. And so I was pleased that if a little disappointed that Bly Manor didn't have quite as many ghosts, but I do think that like Flanagan made the right call not putting like a scavenger hunt in this, because otherwise it would become like a trend every time he does a ghost story, and I think it might get like a little, I don't know, boring by the end of it.
You say that, but when I was watching the show, and again, this was like on October 9th, I was insane. I was looking for them, and I found a bunch, and I felt really proud of myself. And then, you know, in the next couple weeks, where all of like the media reporters were putting out like, here are all the ghosts you missed in the background kind of listicles. Most of them were listing over 50 ghosts, so I was less proud of myself for sure, because I did not get that many. It's
too many ghosts. Why are too many people? I get the gravity well situation. Love it as a concept. Love ghosts being tethered to this world by the Lady in the Lake. Why so many people dying at this? Send Jessica Fletcher to Bly Manor, because too many people are dying in this house.
Well, it was like a plague hospital for a while, so there was that, and she also killed several people.
Well, that's fine too. I'm not stopping her. I'm not stopping Viola from living her best life, but just it's a lot of people.
It was a lot of people. I think the creepiest one for me, when I was watching it back, there's a scene where it's just in the kitchen. People are in the kitchen, and you can see like a child's hands on one of the chairs in the foreground. Like the kid is hiding under the table, and you just see these tiny little hands on one of the chairs. Horrifying. I hated it.
Hate tiny
hands.
Children
are implicitly scary, and I will say the two child actors in this show are fantastic. Lee creepy. They every time they were there, I was scared. Even my little girl being like the badass and stopping Viola from killing everyone by like being willing to sacrifice herself. Still scary. Like sitting on that bed, scary. These are just scary children. They're kind of orphans. They're being raised by their uncle. I don't like it. I don't care for it.
They were
scary children.
They did a really great job of casting two children who look like they would be Victorian ghost children.
Thank you. Yeah. And those are the scariest ghost children.
And then to be, I'm allowed to say that because when I was a little child, I looked like a Victorian ghost child. So
I hope that's the episode image, is Tyler as a Victorian ghost child.
It would be. I look too adorable to actually be a Victorian ghost child. I think that's what scared me.
Well, we teased it a little bit, but let's talk about what happened before we get started here with the Beast in the Jungle. So as this is the finale, we really wanted to go quick run through of everything else that's happened before we get into our beat by beat. So the whole show is narrated by the storyteller, who is telling the story at a wedding party after a rehearsal dinner the day before a wedding. And that's being used as a framing device. We will hear her voice throughout this episode, and we have heard it throughout the season. The narrative centers around Dani, who has traveled to England to escape from the ghosts of her past, literal ghosts and figurative ghosts, as she is haunted by her childhood best friend / fiance, who died almost immediately after she came out to him and broke their engagement. And you know what? He should have been more supportive. She has been hired by Henry Wingrave to be the au pair to his niece and nephew, Flora and Miles. This show was responsible for me understanding what the fuck an au pair was. So thank you, A Haunting of Bly Manor.
Can we talk about that real quick? Because like,
au pair, sure.
The audacity of putting an au pair in something in 2020 when the most of us have never heard of a fucking au pair in our lives.
But now I can't get away from it. Now I can't get away from it, Tyler. They're everywhere.
Is it just like a Europe thing, or like?
Yeah, it's a Europe thing. We don't have that here.
It is French. But no, my boss was looking at getting an au pair after she gave birth. She was like, I think I'm going to get an au pair. And I was like, I know what the fuck that is thanks to this show. Truly and honestly.
It's so funny that au pair is like the term that's used as like the modern equivalent of a governess, which is an even more old-fashioned idea. I think that's so funny.
Listen, though, I would totally put governance in like a searching for ads, classified ads. Searching for ads made it sound like it was like a Craigslist thing, like searching for a governess.
Well, I mean, if you want to go on Craigslist to search for a governess, that's probably like for a different goal.
Oh my God, stop. Also living at Bly Manor are the housekeeper Hannah, Jamie the gardener, and Owen the cook. None of them live in the manor.
Hannah does.
Oh, Hannah does. That's like she's the housekeeper. She stays there. She doesn't leave her room, right? That was the whole thing there. And everyone says, don't leave your room. It's this whole big thing. So we'll find out a little bit more about that as we keep going through what happened last time. Marilee, I'll turn it over to you.
Both of the kids are still traumatized by the death of their parents 2 years previously, as well as the death of their previous governess, Rebecca. However, as we come to discover, death on the grounds of Bly means little, as both Rebecca and Peter Quinch, the disgraced chauffeur of Henry's who disappeared after stealing from him, are still on the grounds and regularly possessing both of the children. Flora and Miles are tucked away into happy childhood memories, while the ghost couple gets to experience life in some small way again, as their souls cannot leave the grounds of Bly. Peter is especially terrified of the fate that awaits any ghost that stays on Bly grounds for too long, as they forget who they are and lose all their facial features. He has plans to keep possessing the kids permanently. And this is what I was talking about earlier. It's a funny story because apparently Flanagan wanted to cast Oliver Jackson Cohen as the gardener. But Netflix thought that was a little weird because he and Victoria Pedretti were just playing twins on Hill House. So they cast him as Peter instead. And that's why we got the beautiful lesbian love story.
I love that.
Is this like one of the rare cases of executive meddling that led to something better?
Hey,
yeah,
every
100%.
once in a while.
I would love to see it.
But a broken clock tells the time right twice a day,
Very
Tyler.
true.
So don't get too excited.
Exactly, yeah. Also love that the governess's name was Rebecca. Not a Henry James reference, but a reference to Daphne du Maurier's gothic romance, Rebecca, which is a wonderful story with a movie that we'll hopefully talk about someday.
Fingers crossed.
So continuing the story of Bly Manor, however, Peter, while possessing the little boy Miles, killed Hannah by pushing her down a well moments before we meet her in the story for the first time. Extremely upsetting. I've still never fully recovered because I loved Hannah too much.
Yeah.
We discover that the force keeping all the ghosts trapped is the Lady in the Lake, who was at one point in time a woman named Viola, the former lady of Bly Manor. When Viola was alive, she suffered from tuberculosis for years and was kept away from her bed and her daughter. All she wanted to do was see her once more in death, but after killing her sister and her murderer, Perdita, Viola's husband tossed the trunk that Viola's spirit was tied to into the lake on Bly grounds. Because she has been dead so long, she's forgotten everything about herself, her life, even her face, and only exists as a vague memory of wanting to go to a particular place, see a particular child, and then to return to sleep, and will kill anyone who gets in her way.
Yeah. So they're like ghosts on ghosts on ghosts in the show.
Ghostception, if you will.
So it is ghostception. We should have provided a genogram to every listener of like how to track this stuff because it's just ghosts everywhere. But we're going to start with this episode. You've got the background. Here we go into The Beast in the Jungle, the 9th episode of The Haunting of Bly Manor. The episode opens with Hannah Gross stating the year in present day 1987 and then listing everyone who's died, ending with herself, before turning to face who we think is Owen, but is actually her memory of Owen. They discuss how she loved him and why this is her favorite memory. Hannah wishes she was brave enough to tell Owen how much she loved him when she was alive. But memory Owen tells Hannah that she needs to warn him, to help the real him. He isn't him at all, but he's just her within her memory. And everyone alive still needs her bravery, and she needs to be brave in her death. The scene changes to the Lady of the Lake dragging Danny by the throat behind her and slowly strangling her as she walks towards the house closer to Flora. Hannah appears and tells Flora to run inside the house to hide and goes to confront the lady, but there is nothing Hannah can do. The lady walks right through her. The Lady of the Lake is terrifying. Just terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying creature design.
Flanagan can make a spooky ghost, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
But it's not just the look of it. It is also sort of the mechanical industry that moves her forward with this one goal that I think is so terrifying because, like, I don't know, the Babadook had, like, intentions and things. So it was a ghost who had, like, a thing that he wanted to do, but did a bunch of other things as well. Lady of the Lake is just on a mission and nothing will stop her. And that's scary, like, you could be killed by a car because a car has no feelings. Like, this is just a machine, and that's terrifying.
Yeah, for sure. It's also like there's a full flashback episode when you're watching the show between when Danny gets grabbed and when we see like the resolution of this. And so you're just like sitting on tenterhooks, like trying to like figure out what's gonna save Danny, and it takes so long. You feel so bad for her. I was scared. I was so scared.
Yeah, and I mean, I love also that the design of the Lady of the Lake, you know, the face is blurred. It's like it's out of a dream, and I think that's such a wonderful visual design choice that they made. Also, of course, we have Hannah and Owen in the kitchen where so many of these major plot moments happen, but also a beautiful, you know, interaction between Hannah and Owen. That memory that Hannah has is what sits with her and is what eventually motivates her to go out and try and save everyone. But yeah, Hannah and Owen. Can we talk a little bit about Hannah and Owen?
We should.
Because their relationship, even though it's a heterosexual relationship, there's so much going on there that has a lot of like a queer underlying theme to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of othering in the show. I think not. I don't know if we're meant to interpret it because of the way Rebecca gets treated a little differently as well. If this is all classism or if there's an aspect of this that is racism, because these are the three characters who are in like service positions but are also people of color. I didn't, you know, it. I mean, they're hot as fuck together, so they should absolutely get together. But it is a little sad that their relationship cannot be successful, and it's hard not to like notice that the relationship that does work is two white people. So I don't know. I don't know if that was part of what you wanted to bring up, Tyler, but it did stick with me as I was kind of rewatching this scene.
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of this feeling of like Hannah wants so badly for the situation to have been different, and she can't. And the only happiness that she can really find is in death. And I think that's a lot of, first of all, it's just tragic. It's tragic no matter the gender or gender identity or anything else. But I think also because there is a queering of relationships that we find in the show, not just a homosexual relationship, but also just very different, atypical romantic relationships, familiar relationships, that I think Hannah and Owen are a great representation of a relationship that could have been, but, you know, society, or in this case, a ghost, you know, said otherwise.
Right.
So back to the actual scene. Still dragging Danny, the Lady of the Lake approaches her former bed in the master bedroom of the manor house. Flora, the little girl, jumps onto the bed and begs the lady for Danny's life. The lady has a brief fragment of a memory from when she was Viola and sees her daughter instead of Flora. Gladly, the lady drops Danny and gently cradles Flora in her arms as she turns around and starts her return journey to the lake. There's a wonderful detail in this scene where we see in flashback that the lady is humming like a nursery rhyme or some sort of lullaby to her daughter, and then suddenly it jumps back into the present and the lady is humming something in this horrible creaky voice that's just very, very unsettling. Kudos to Flanagan on that as well. Danny, of course, is horrified but unable to do anything, and she can barely even move or breathe as they walk past her. Henry hears Flora's cries as he finally arrives at Bly Manor, stopping his car to run over and try to stop the lady. Unfortunately, he can't stop her any more than Hannah could and is thrown to the ground nearly dead. Henry looks at his dying body, surprised as the lady walks on. I think Henry is an interesting character in this story because I think he is a representation, again, if we're trying to queer this story going beyond just, same-sex homosexuality, he is kind of a representation of a non-traditional family unit. He's single. He's single the entire time. He's very disconnected in a very, I perceive it as very Victorian sort of way where the uncle doesn't want to have anything to do with the niece and nephew because of personal trauma on his side, which he drowns in alcohol. But then over time, through the course of the story, Henry kind of works through those things. And in this moment of okay, he's going to be the hero, he's going to do something about it, he dies almost immediately. And I think, his quote unquote death is not in itself queer, but I think in his attempt to try to become a non-traditional parent, he is killed. And then, of course, by the end of it, we see that everything works out. But it's still, I find, just interesting and if just tragic on its own that, of course, the moment the guy is like, okay, I'm going to step up and be a good uncle, that's when he gets killed.
Yeah. I also think the value in killing him narratively is that you get to remind the audience how all these rules you set up work, which is if you die on the manor, you're a ghost. Other ghosts can see you. No one else can see you until you perfect your ghostly skills. It was almost like a good, hey, have you been paying attention for the last 8 episodes? Or did you just pop this one in and you haven't seen it since 2020, which was for me. I needed that. Thanks, Flanny Boo Boo. Just to give me a quick reminder. And it did click all in my head oh, he's dead now. And that's why he can talk to Hannah. Hannah can sometimes be seen. She can't quite control it yet. It's all very confusing, which was fun the whole season long. But now we get this kind of with Henry. And I thought that's how we were to interpret this. So I thought he was dead. I thought Lady was Danny is hot and strong, can't kill her. But this dude, you out. He instant death.
So that's a really fun thought. I just kind of thought it was the instant Henry apparition that happened was more to do with the double thing that he had going on. Mm-hmm. But I love where your head's at. I think that's really a fun interpretation, and you're very smart, David.
Oh, I am. I'm so smart and handsome.
You are. But I do just want to say that it is a very non-traditional family, but he is very much, this didn't go into the description because it didn't matter to the plot, but he is actually Flora's father because he was having a long time affair with the mom, and that's why he was single.
Oh shit. See, I also haven't watched the show since 2020, so that changes things a little bit.
I remember that because that was a big reveal in mid-season. It was huge.
It was a huge reveal that he was Flora's dad, and the reason why they went on this trip was it was a second honeymoon after the dad figured everything out. So he not only felt responsible for the death of his brother, who he did love, and this woman that he had probably also loved. They never really say those words, but they were having an affair for a very long time, behind this brother that he loves back. And the last conversation he had with his brother was you're banned from Bly, you'll never talk to those kids again. And he was so in his trauma about the causing their death, he was still abiding by his brother's rules, and that's why he was never on the grounds.
He's not banned from Bly anymore because now he is stuck there because he is Ghosty Dad.
Yeah. Owen and Jamie also arrive at Bly. They both had an awful dream and just felt the need to come. Hannah is distressed to see them, but tells them to head to the lake before disappearing. On their way there, however, they discover Henry, and Owen immediately starts CPR. As a last-ditch effort to save Flora, Danny offers herself to the lady. It works. Gravity shifts in Bly as the lady disappears into Danny and frees all of the ghosts trapped there from her pull. Hannah tells Henry where to find her body and to tell Owen that she's sorry and that she loved him before Owen saves Henry and he wakes up in himself again. And everyone's together and all right at last. Or are they?
Oh, everyone is together, all right.
Listen.
Everyone's still alive is together. How about that?
Yeah. And some extra baggage, which we're gonna spend the next act talking about, I imagine.
Yeah.
Congrats to Pedretti for an absolutely haunting, but tish performance here. The way that she's like going into the lake and calls out, "It's you, it's me, it's us." Like it was fantastic. I really bought that performance.
Yeah, it was very good. And the idea of taking the presence of the lady into her, setting the story in 1987, having this be a queer relationship is going to be a pretty recurring, significant metaphor that we're gonna be talking through over the next few scenes, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So, time moves on. We're not really told the exact span of time, but it seems to be maybe a couple days. Danny is distracted and upset, and when Jamie tries to ask what's going on, Danny breaks down. We find out that the lady is still within her, and she is quiet but not peaceful. Danny can feel her waiting like a beast in the jungle, and knows that someday, maybe soon, the lady will strike, and Danny will be no more. Jamie offers to keep her company while she waits, and the two share a beautiful, tender moment. Everyone gathers together in the entryway to say goodbye. Turns out both groups, the Wingraves and Danny and Jamie, are going to America, but Danny and Jamie are vague with their plans, not wanting to let Flora and the little boy Miles know that Danny's future might not be very long at all. Henry and Danny share a long hug. He, at least, knows what she's done for them. Danny, however, is just glad that they have each other. Eventually, they all leave the manor. So I believe, and this is... I think what Flanagan was most going for here is that there is a metaphor of a terminal disease affecting a gay couple in the late 80s. And I have a lot of complicated feelings about this whole plot line, which we did touch on at the beginning with the bury your gays trope. So I feel like I've kind of talked it through, but it's still just kind of like, it's fucking tragic, man. Like it's such, especially because Danny is so sympathetic and really goes through the emotional ringer throughout the entirety of this show. She starts off traumatized. She keeps on getting re-traumatized. She finds her bravery. She's going out and she's doing things. She's actually getting into a relationship that makes her feel whole and happy. And when it seems that things are finally going to start working out, she gets, metaphorical AIDS. And in the 80s, this is, AIDS was not good, to say the very least about it. And so it's incredibly sad. And Flanagan is so wonderful at displaying emotion and these wonderful monologues, not metaphors, monologues that he's able to direct are so beautiful. Although in Midnight Mass it gets a little crazy, but that's neither here nor there. I just think everything about this is so beautiful, but also incredibly tragic.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about your complicated feeling, is this the tragedy of all of this that's sort of sticking out to you, or do you hate that she has ghost AIDS? Because that is, in 1987, there is really only one way to interpret this, in my mind, for a queer couple, is that this is HIV/AIDS.
Well, that's the thing, is I hate it because it's tragic that she catches, metaphorical HIV/AIDS. But in the sense that, I love it because it's so wonderfully performed and I think shot and everything about this is told pretty sensitively. It's just, it sucks that it happens, but that's a tragedy.
Listen, we have yet another example of the Christmas decorations that I just completely walked right on past last episode. Because to me, I was like, oh yeah, this is a metaphor for dementia, and the AIDS of it all just came right on over my head.
Wow, really? Okay, I love that. As we keep going, I would love to keep exploring that metaphor with you, Marilee, because I think in particular it's the end of Danny's story that makes this such a relevant AIDS story, or really an HIV story. I think the metaphor for HIV works really well. I think it's a strange but important lens to keep telling the story of how queer families had to navigate and negotiate a disease that was disproportionately affecting our community.
Mm-hmm.
And it being an infection that is slow and pernicious really works in telling a story about a queer couple. Lesbians a little bit less impacted than men who had sex with men, but it was still part of this overarching family. And I think the beats are really well informed through
for sure.
the sort of season long story, which is like the thing to actually be afraid of is loss.
Mm-hmm.
The loss of self, the loss of someone you care about, just wanting to hold your child one more time. Viola's story being informed by disease as well. I think there's a lot here, and I really liked it. I mean, I like tragedy, so.
I also, Marilee, I think the dementia aspect of it is incredibly relevant as well.
Yeah.
Because as David was just saying, a lot of this has to do with memory, loss of memory, disease. Of course, these are things that you are going to experience with dementia. And I think that probably was going to be the log line. I keep saying that word, but that Flanagan was going to go for with this story. Now that we know that originally Jamie was supposed to be played by a man. But I think the show does a really good job of trying to have its cake and eat it too.
Right.
Because, you know, it works on so many complicated levels.
Yeah, it really does. And I think that you guys are bringing such a beautiful and rich interpretation to the story that as soon as I read it, was like, oh my God, of course it is. And I really appreciate thinking about it in that way. I just didn't notice the Christmas decorations yet again.
Well, it's a few months later. We check in with Jamie and Danny again. We're at a diner somewhere in America. I think you were supposed to know it was America because it's a diner, and I love that. That's good use of environmental storytelling. Jamie wants to go to Vermont for Christmas, but Danny isn't sure she'll be around that long and wants to manage expectations. She wants to protect Jamie's heart. Jamie assures Danny that she's happy to keep living one day at a time with her as long as they can. Then it's a year later, they've set up a plant store together, and Danny is still herself. Time keeps passing, and we see Jamie and Danny living together, happy and in love, at peace with each other and their life and their love. But then after 5 years, Danny sees the lady again in her reflection. She knows that the clock is still ticking and time is starting to fall short. That night, she proposes to Jamie. Super cute. I've just got to say, hiding a ring and some roots that you know that your plant girlfriend is going to go crazy for. Brilliant. And while they can't get legally married, Danny wants to spend all of the time that they can together. Jamie is thrilled, but behind her back, Danny looks worried and tense.
How dare this ghost keep interrupting my beautiful 90s lesbian rom-com? This is homophobia in action.
Lady of the Lake, certified homophobe. 100%. I will buy into that. Viola, you know what? Let these ladies have love.
Yeah. Viola, grow as a person.
She can't. She's in the bottom of the lake.
Fuck. Yeah, no, I loved this happy 90s lesbian routine. It's kind of giving, like, you know, a classic 90s, well, not just 90s, but just a classic love story. I love them having a plant shop together. I love that little detail about, like, wanting to go to Vermont for Christmas, because it's like, of course, in the 90s they're going to Vermont because it's probably going to be the only safe place that they can go to as a queer couple. But, you know, it's a tragedy, so the happiness has to end at some point.
Yeah. I loved also Tyler talking about how great it was that this was like a 90s thing, like before the smartphones ruined love. It's like, what made the 90s so great, Tyler? God.
Danny would have been on all sorts of apps just being like, hey, Exorcist, do you like know one? If this were set in 2020.
I like that your interpretation.
She would have been using crystals.
Yours was so much better than mine, because I was like, oh my God, Danny opened up Grindr. It was like, dying soon. Can you host? Oh my God. I do love that we're using these beats of this queer couple experiencing and navigating systems to recognize their union, because that it helps timestamp the experience that we have going on. We don't need to know exactly what year it is to know that we're doing this, and it's just clever storytelling, and I just really love that.
In Paris, Danny and Jamie visit Owen's new restaurant, A Batter Place. Eventually their conversation turns to the Wingraves, and Danny sees the lady again. The kids no longer remember what happened, not any of the supernatural details. Danny is heartbroken, but Owen thinks that this is for the best. Time passes again. Jamie has gotten legal documents making their civil union official, though she notes that they'll marry again when they can. And when she gets home, she sees water all over the floor in the hallway. She runs and finds Danny with an overflowing bathtub and her face barely inches above the waterline, looking directly into the face of the lady. Jamie wakes her and tries to comfort her, but Danny admits how tired she is. She is feeling herself fading away, and she can't do anything about it except that this is happening and to stop fighting it. Jamie begs her to stay and says that she will feel everything for both of them if she has to, because she wants all of the days together they can. Danny worries that one day Jamie will be sitting next to her, but it won't be her anymore. It'll be the lady. Jamie reminds her that they will take it one day at a time.
Fuck you, Mike Flanagan. Brutal.
Yeah, brutal for sure. I love Owen deeply. Truly, he's fantastic. He's a fantastic character. I love Raul Colley. Fantastic. But fuck you a little bit for this. She gave her life for Flora. She gave herself away. And she is allowed to mourn that sacrifice being forgotten without you telling her in this moment that this is for the greater good. That hurt a little.
It gave me, and I think we get it at the end of the episode, but it gave me that in some ways Owen is forgetting a little of what's happened. Owen is losing a little bit of his memory, because for him not to recognize the tremendous sacrifice almost makes me think that it's no longer at the front of his brain. And that's why he almost says that it's better for Flora. And we start to see that this is all getting a little bit forgotten. I also wanted to ask, I just wrote it down. We said we're in Paris here. Are we in Paris?
Yes. Yeah. This is the restaurant that he talked about going back to Paris and making this restaurant. They talk a lot about that, he wanted to bring Hannah to Paris, and this is the place he named after her because he thought he loved that he finally got her to laugh at this deeply stupid name.
I love the name, first of all. And second, I was 100% sure that we were just being douchey saying merci to the waitstaff. Now I feel much differently about it. I was like, merci? Are you kidding me? Calm down. Calm down. But if it's in Paris, then I feel differently, and I apologize for my past snarkiness.
No, I took this as to be like their not legal honeymoon. You know what I mean?
Okay,
they went to Paris.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Much better. Much better.
Totally. So eventually Danny wakes up from a horrible dream to find herself with her hand at Jamie's throat. Danny flees, and Jamie wakes to find a very sad goodbye note. Jamie heads back to Bly and tries to drown herself to be with Danny, but she is a lady in the lake now too, and she refuses to let Jamie die like this. She has to live. Ugh, God, that whole scene, it's rough. Jamie becomes the storyteller, the narrator of the show, telling this story to the audience at the rehearsal dinner of a beautiful wedding in California in 2017. A guest asks if the story is true. If she could go to Bly, could she see the lady? But the storyteller admits she changed all the names and there is no such place as Bly. Just before she goes up to go to bed, the bride has a moment with the storyteller and tells her she set up the story wrong. It's not a ghost story. It's a love story. The storyteller says they're the same thing. The bride admits she thought the story was made up because her middle name is Flora. Okay. I go ahead, David.
No, I'm just going to say that listen, you both love an unreliable narrator, but I am gullible. Mm-hmm. So I assumed all of this was true, and my interpretation here was that everyone's just forgotten. And that's why none of these 2017 versions of folks can remember what's going on. And that this is Jamie being able to keep this connection because of her supernatural connection with Danny, who is now the Lady of the Lake. And my interpretation of when they asked, could I visit Bly? Her response saying, I expect if you were to fly to England, you would find no place to that name, is because they are now prohibited from going on. Like there just was something happening here that was more supernatural than my interpretation of this just being a slightly changed story. But I'm very into you all and this unreliable narrator thing, which seems to be informed by the source material that you both read and I have not.
Well, I think, first of all, it's really cool that we're in a framing story, or we're using a framing device, because that's going back to the original Turn of the Screw. And so I think that there is a sense that there is an unreliable narrator here, but I'm kind of wondering how much of it is unreliable in universe of the story that's taking place versus unreliable to us as the audience, because I think on the one hand, we take it for granted that the story that we're seeing on screen is true. It's all true facts, even though there are some scenes where the storyteller Jamie is not present. Like, there's a whole scene between Peter and Rebecca as ghosts that there's no way Jamie would know about. So one wonders how much of that is accurate, or again, if we're seeing something that in universe is not referenced. I don't know. It's weird. And so I think that there is, like, I do think you're right, David, that there is more going on supernaturally, because by the end of the story we do have, or by the end of the show we do have confirmation ghosts are real. But there's a lot happening, and I think it's cool. I'll just say that. I just think it's cool.
Yeah,
it is cool.
I just the thought that there might be things that she couldn't know, but the Lady of the Lake knows everything, and to me, the whole point of this is that Danny and Jamie are one. It's you, it's me, it's us. Like that refrain that came from Danny summoning in the Lady of the Lake now carries forward to this connection between the two of them. But Danny won't let Jamie die. And it is that act of heroism that breaks this cycle of oppression and despair. And what more could we want from a queer love story than to destroy the routine and despair? That's why we exist as queers.
That's so beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. I love this idea that she's ending the cycle of violence.
Yeah, I
think that is beautiful.
Yeah, my
Don't
little
make
complaint.
me get emotional on our podcast, David.
That's perfect. My thing is that I love Carla Gugino, sure. But I've always felt that she's a little bit too femme presenting in her scenes to be our beloved Futch Gardner. And these are the things that I use to distract myself from this heartbreak.
That's fair. That's fair. I bought it, but I was watching her being like, you're Olivia. I know who you are. You're a different character from Mike Flanagan's stories. I do think, in defense of my thesis, the ending scene between who we will learn, the bride, is this sense that she's like, I will lose my husband. I will lose him, and there's nothing that scares me more than that. And that could creep its way into her memory the same way that a memory of her daughter crept into Viola's memory. And the universe teaching me that even if you forget things, there will be this deep, resonant, emotional core. And that seems to be true for the bride, who is Flora, the same way that it was true for Viola and her daughter.
I love that.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's
and
wonderful.
that's why she's like scared. And I do also like the advice that Jamie gives her, which is like, you just have to keep living. You can't live for fear. If you're going to love someone, you have to sort of accept that one day they'll die.
Yeah, and that's true. You do.
Yeah, and your only hope is that you make it out first if you are the same age, I guess. God. That's my goal. I'm making it out first.
Yeah, fair enough. The next day is the wedding, and it's a beautiful event. There's a moment where the storyteller looks across the dance floor and sees everyone as their younger selves, as they were in 1987. Eventually, she goes back to her hotel room and gets ready for bed. She fills the bathtub and sink with water, cracks open the hotel door slightly, and falls asleep in a chair watching it, waiting for her lady. The camera cuts to behind her, and as it slowly zooms out, you can clearly see Danny's hand on her shoulder just before the screen cuts to black.
It's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I just wrote in our notes, my feels.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is where I become inconsolable every time. Jamie, she's still with you. She's still with you, Jamie. She's right there. She's right there.
I think in my first viewing, I thought maybe this was, I'm trying to see my partner. But watching it again and watching it for this podcast, the filling of the bathtub, the filling of the sink were almost methodical. Like this is something that Jamie does every night.
Yeah.
Because this is how I keep connection with the love of my life, even though they're in a different place. And that was powerful. I really, really loved that.
I had the exact same feeling. Yeah. That it seems that this is a routine.
It is routine for her.
Including leaving the door cracked. Do you think this is, well, I guess this kind of answers your question, but for some reason, or answers my question from your perspectives. Oh boy. But when I watched the show, initially it seemed to me that this is Danny's first time reaching out. I think it's really just kind of informed by like the fact that I just watched a whole story about how Jamie can't connect with Danny and she doesn't realize that Danny is present in her life. But David, I really love that point that you brought up, that even though the conceit of the show is that memories will fade and identities will be lost and so on and so forth, there is still like a core that knows, and I think that's really beautiful. I think Flanagan is so good at what he does because he never forgets that ghost stories are love stories, and I believe that was I'm probably getting this wrong, but I believe that's actually a quote more or less from David Foster Wallace. That ghost stories and love stories more or less are the same. I don't know the exact quote, but I think that this is something that is part of why ghost stories resonate so well with us, is because they are reflections of our past, both individually as a society. Folklore is the compilation of a culture and their truths, their memories, and they all keep going on and on forever. And I think Flanagan takes that conceit and then pushes it to its extreme by saying, okay, but what if it really does go on forever? What happens to it after that time passes? And he uses this metaphor of dementia, and then of course with Danny we have HIV/AIDS and the AIDS crisis, and showcases what happens when those memories are left to go on. And here we have Jamie who's holding on to that memory for dear life, and everyone else, it starts to fall apart, but for her, she can still hold on to that tether that keeps Danny there. And I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah,
I like that a lot, Tyler. I just think, I don't know. I think this series, I know that people are critical of it not being as scary as Hill House, and it is not as scary as Hill House, really, on almost any measurable level. But it's very, very emotionally impactful in a way that Hill House didn't quite get to this depth for
agree.
Me.
I don't know that I agree with that, but I deeply love this story. I have to say, I've seen this more times than I saw Hill House. Mostly because I love Hill House so much that it's like a scheduled viewing, and like it's very deeply impactful for me for a lot of reasons. This one doesn't hit as hard, so I'm happy to just throw it on because I can enjoy it without like being emotionally devastated after, which is a lot because like Danny and Jamie it's so much.
Funny enough, that's how I feel about Midnight Mass. My Flanagan's follow-up to this.
I've only seen Midnight Mass once, so however you like want to take that, you can feel free to do so.
I have to fast forward through all the cat stuff.
Well, yes, also there's that.
No.
But otherwise, I don't know. That's probably the subject for a different podcast, but I just find it resonates with me really well in terms of like emotional trauma and Catholicism, and I grew up Catholic, but I'm not Catholic now. I also just think like the monologues, there's quite a lot of them, but they all work very well. And then the main actor's performance in that I think is stellar. And can we talk also just about the acting in Bly Manor and like all of Flanagan's joints is incredible. Like he gets so much out of his actors that I don't think gets enough credit for because it's quote unquote genre. So
you're right. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
I really think everybody performs to such an incredible level, and it's just incredible.
Yeah.
Well, and I think when you can have it's giving theater troupe because these people all play together. They're all directed by the same creator who Flanagan directs a lot of the episodes of the series. So they almost have this nice familial nature, even though they're then cast in very, very different roles. I joked about her being Olivia, but like there is this sort of vibe that comes with playing from someone you've already built trust with that I think is really, really powerful.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And Katie Siegel,
yeah. I think
Siegel?
I don't know. Listen, I'm saying with authority, but I'm also not sure.
Was she in Bly Manor? And
Yes, she's Viola.
Oh, duh. Jesus, right. Duh. Hello. It was the whole last episode. It was all her. Yeah, well, any opportunity to talk about her is an incredible one because she is a fantastic actor. And I am so glad that they are married. And I hope they make very creative progeny across the world.
Same. Yeah. I'm so happy that Mike Flanagan married her. So that means that she gets to be in everything Mike Flanagan makes from now on.
Yeah, it's a real.
I don't care if they're in love or whatever. It's just I want to have more of her in my life and on my TV. So.
Well, the last thing I wanted to bring up is that Kamal Khan plays the older Owen at the wedding. So he changes back to Rahul Kohli. And listen, I think Rahul Kohli is amazing, but Kamal Khan is a like video game voice actor. And he is a pretty large part of Thirsty Suitors. So I just wanted to point that out. And I think that anytime we can call attention to a brilliant independent video game is a great one, but like he's a blink and you'll miss him sort of actor, barely gets credited. I think he is credited as like family friend on IMDb, not even older Owen.
Brutal.
Brutal.
Do we have any other final thoughts for this episode? Anything else that people wanted to point out or other conversations we want to have?
My only thing is that Mike Flanagan, the only project he has listed as upcoming is a movie called The Life of Chuck. And let me tell you what, with the themes present in this work, I am already ready to be a crying mess in that movie theater. I can't wait to be
what does it have going on?
Emotionally devastated again.
What is it? What's going on with it? What's happening?
So The Life of Chuck is based on 3 short stories in a Stephen King short story collection. It's 3 acts and each of them are told out of order, and I will happily talk to you about this afterwards. I don't want to spoil people going into the movie if they don't already know, but Mike Flanagan is a huge fan of Stephen King's. I love his adaptation of Dr. Sleep is one of my favorites that he's ever done. It's so good. It makes a mediocre book an excellent movie. And I just cannot wait to see what he does with this. I'm seated in the theater already. It's not coming out for like another couple years, but I'm already there spiritually. I can't wait.
Love that. No, the last things I have to say is yay queer love, yay plant mamas. I say this is awesome, incredible. Love that they got a civil partnership, but then also joked that they would get married again. Just a lot of great, not to borrow Tyler's thing, but like a lot of great 90s romance here at the end, really nestled within like horrors. And I think that that's beautiful. Queer people should be happy. Go queer people, go Vermont.
I think we should hell yeah, Vermont. I think they should do like what they'll do with like anime and manga after they've like completed the arc or they've completed the whole story. They do AU stories.
Nice.
And so we should have like an AU where it's just 90s rom-com with Danny and Jamie. And they're like trying to run the plant store, and they're also trying to teach Jamie how to cook because there's this nice little moment in there where Jamie says that she can't cook for shit. And I think we should definitely have that alternate universe. I think in terms of whether or not this is queer, I think we've pretty thoroughly established that there's a lot of queer stuff in this that goes beyond just Jamie and Danny, which I really love. I love that we're able to find these interpretations and make everything that doesn't seem queer actually queer. And I think we should always relish and enjoy that, especially when it comes to Mike Flanagan's works, because so many of them are so wonderful. I think if people are also interested in learning or experiencing a little bit more media about memory and dementia, I think there's might be interested in a really upsetting but very, very good recording called Everywhere at the End of Time. It's a compilation of 6 albums that uses degrading loops of ballroom music to simulate dementia and Alzheimer's. And it starts off like pretty nice. There's like a little bit of a funk to the sound, and then it eventually degenerates until it is just horrible droning noise. But it is very, very good. It's very, very emotionally and physically intense. I would not recommend listening to it all in one go. However, it's excellent, and I think it is kind of like a good pairing piece with Bly Manor.
That's awesome. Thanks, Tyler.
Yeah, I'll look that up. Well, thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Please also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at FearCodedPod, where we are sure to have plenty more perfectly splendid content for you all to enjoy.
Wow. And join us next time, because we're not only getting electrified, we're going back and back and back. There will not be so much talk about tanning beds that you have ever heard in your entire life as you will hear on our next episode when we watch and discuss the absurdist horror comedy Lisa Frankenstein. This podcast, of course, is a proud part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. If you'd like to listen to more queer media podcasts, you can check out the full rosters of shows at glitterjaw.com. And that includes things like Are You My Mother, which I host, featuring a discussion about mothers in media, or the Gimmicks podcast, which Marilee and I got to talk a little bit about earlier this episode. Thank you so much. And again, friends, we'll look forward to talking about Lisa Frankenstein next episode. Until then, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Tanning beds.